Hello, my lovelies. Welcome back to the show. I am the Maeve of all trades. I'm going to be reading some more of Knight of Camelot. Today I'm going to be reading pages 8 through 11. What did it say? Nobody knows, Angus replied with a shrug. He tossed it into the fire as soon as he read it. Mabon thought for a moment. What do you mean by sent into a spiral? Well, for over a week straight, he would walk in a circle around the castle every morning, shouting words in a language nobody could understand and tossing salt and sage every which way. He whistled again. I tell you, Clara was not happy when practically a month's worth of herbs was gone from the kitchen after 8 days. What happened after that? Mabon asked, a kind of anticipation rising in her that she hadn't felt since she was still a wee thing, hanging on to every word of the fairy tales Dorothea would tell her before bed. On the 9th day, he walked around the castle 9 times, not uttering a word. When he finished, he went back inside, packed a trunk, lit a red candle, and locked himself and you in his chamber. Nobody saw hide or hair of either of you until the following sunset, when he came back out acting as if nothing had happened. None of us have brought it up since. It made sense. Her father was no stranger to harsh punishments if his instructions weren't followed to the letter. If he was harsh with his own child, one could only imagine the onslaught he brought to the servants that ever displeased him. So what do you think it all meant? Mabon pondered. Hard to tell. Angus shrugged again. But something I can say for certain. There is something in your father's past that I don't think he wants catching up with him. And he's very good at keeping to himself. I've been in his employ for almost 25 years, and I know just as much about him now as I knew back then. If there's something going on, he's likely to keep it to himself. Best thing is to try not to dwell on it too much. Mabon let out another sigh. They both knew that telling her not to dwell on it too much would only guarantee that she would only dwell on it even more. But they also knew that she could dwell on it as much as she pleased, but one thing she would never do was ask her father. That would only make him angry. Nothing more was said about her father's behavior, but it followed her all through the rest of her lessons and even into her sleep. Her question may have been answered, but it only opened the way to more questions. And one in particular kept her up long into the night. What had made her father act so strangely back then? And why was he acting so strangely again? Chapter 3. Her father wasn't present at lunch or supper, nor was he present at breakfast the following morning. As Mabon was picking at her food, the confusion of it had taken up all the room in her mind and chased away her appetite. Dorothea, the head maid and the closest person Mabon had to a mother, scurried into the room. Have you seen your father, dearie? She asked, her dove-gray shawl fluttering around her like soft wings. She'd worn that shawl for as long as Mabon could remember, and when she was small, she rather thought they made her look like an angel whenever she walked at her usual brisk pace. I was rather hoping you'd know, Mabon sighed. Well, that's troubling, Dorothea agreed as she began to scurry off again. Thea, wait, Mabon called. The old woman paused and turned, a twist on her brow, looking rather unnatural on her usually serene features. Has father acted like this before? Acted how, child? Well, squirrely, out of it, nervous. He looked over his shoulder no less than 5 times at breakfast yesterday morning, and I haven't seen him since. Well, dearie, your father has always been a very guarded man. At least, he has for as long as I've known him. Mabon gestured for the old woman to sit down at the open chair. Dorothea looked around nervously, biting her lip and folding her hands. A flicker of guilt passed through Mabon's chest. There were only 2 seats at the very long table, Mabon's and her father's, and if her father discovered a servant in his chair, he'd be furious. After a moment of thought, she moved herself to her father's seat and gestured for Dorothea to sit in hers. Oh, you don't need to trouble yourself, dearie, Thea assured. You've been up since before dawn, Mabon insisted. Thea sighed, fondly shaking her head. They both knew well that once Mabon Delar got an idea in her head, only an act of God would remove that idea again. With a few cracks of joints and another sigh, Thea sat down. Now what did you wish to ask me, child? How long have you known my father? A strange look came to the old woman's face, and her mouth pressed into a thin line. It often did, when she was deep in thought, but this time there was something else lingering on her face. Something Mabon couldn't identify. She was itching to ask, but she knew better than to question her. For a moment of thought, Dorothea answered, I have been working for him since before you were born. And has he acted like this before? Part of her was tempted to ask if she'd known her mother, but as she always did when this particular thought crossed her mind, she decided against it. Dorothea thought a bit more, her eyes swirling with question, doubt, and worry. but Mabon continued to stay silent as the old woman gathered her thoughts, answering Mabon's question with one of her own. "He told you why you were brought to this castle, yes?" Mabon nodded. "He feared that we were in danger after my—" She stopped herself. "After I was born." Her father had forbidden any and all discussion about her mother. Mabon never understood why. Perhaps it caused him too much pain to think about his late wife. No matter the reason, he wouldn't be happy if he got wind of the fact that his daughter and the head maid were conversing on a topic he'd strictly forbidden. Even if Mabon received no punishment, Dorothea certainly would, which was the last thing Mabon wanted. Dorothea bit her lip, glancing over her shoulder before answering. "In the first few months of us living here, he acted much the same, and he wouldn't let you out of his sight for days." "I was told as much," Mabon replied. Dorothea went pale but said nothing, which Mabon took as an invitation to continue. "Any idea why?" Dorothea bit her lip again. With every word Mabon spoke, her face grew paler and paler. Her hands clenched and unclenched, clutching her apron like it was the hand of God itself. "No, I can't say I've given it much thought either way," she answered quickly. "Well, there may be danger. Whatever was chasing him before could be coming back," Mabon posed. "Angus told me that he acted especially odd before my first birthday. You shouldn't be discussing your father so bluntly behind his back like this." Thea cut her off. Her usual easygoing and warm demeanor long gone. "What? Thea, I didn't mean to offend you. You didn't, dearie. I just don't want you to get in trouble. With my father, or with someone else?" Thea was taken aback for a moment before she stood from the table. "Why are we even discussing such dreary topics anyway? You needn't worry, child. Your father is fine. Likely just under a bit of stress. Thea, wait. Now I must get back to my chores, and you need to finish your breakfast and get on with your penmanship. Thea, we'll talk more tomorrow, dearie." The old woman gave her a smile, but there was fear in her eyes. Only a flash of it was visible before she was scurrying out of the room, leaving a very confused Mabon in her wake. If you stayed for this long, thank you so much for listening. Please leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and please leave a comment. I always love hearing from you guys, and be sure to subscribe. Thank you so much, and I have been the Maeve of all trades.